Roughly 64% of Black children in America live in single-parent households, and yet research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that Black fathers who do not live with their children are often more likely to maintain daily contact, provide meals, help with homework, and participate in their children's lives than non-residential fathers from other racial groups. So what does the first statistic tell us, and what does it leave out? In our last episode, we looked at wealth. We talked about income, homeownership, investing, inheritance, and the long-term effects of building wealth on uneven ground. Economic stability influences many aspects of life. One of the most personal is family. This episode is about fatherhood. One of the most discussed and most misunderstood topics in the conversation about Black men in America. We are going to look at what the data actually says, not what the headlines say, not what the stereotypes say, what the research says. According to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, a significant share of Black children do not live in households with both biological parents present. Compared with other racial groups, Black children are more likely to live in single-parent households. That statistic is real, and it deserves to be taken seriously. Household structure affects finances, time, resources, stress, and the daily realities of raising children. But household structure is only one measure. The CDC's National Survey of Family Growth looked beyond where fathers live and asked a different question. What are fathers actually doing? The findings surprised many people. Black fathers who live with their children report high levels of involvement in daily caregiving activities. Bathing children, feeding children, helping with homework, reading, playing, attending activities. But the most surprising findings involved fathers who did not live in the home. Black non-residential fathers reported frequent contact with their children and high levels of involvement in caregiving and parenting activities. The data challenged a long-standing assumption. Not living in the home does not automatically mean absent. Research on father-child engagement tells a similar story. Black fathers report strong emotional involvement with their children, reading to them, talking with them, playing with them, showing up for them. Community involvement adds another layer. Many Black men serve as coaches, mentors, youth leaders, faith leaders, big brothers, uncles, and role models. Their influence often extends beyond their own households and into the broader community. So what do these numbers tell us? The first thing they tell us is that household composition and father involvement are not the same thing. A child living in a single-parent household does not automatically mean that father is absent. The second thing the numbers tell us is that fatherhood is more complicated than a census category. The research consistently shows that many Black fathers remain actively involved in their children's lives, regardless of whether they live in the same home. That finding matters, because public conversations often use household statistics as a proxy for fatherhood itself, and those are not the same measurement. The third thing the data tells us is that the challenges facing families are real. Financial instability, employment barriers, housing challenges, incarceration, relationship breakdowns. All of these factors can influence whether parents live together. Recognizing father involvement does not require ignoring those realities. Both conversations can exist at the same time. The headline statistic is real, but the CDC data is real too. And understanding both creates a more complete picture. But here is what the numbers cannot tell you. They cannot tell you about the father who drives across town 3 times a week to attend every practice, every school event, and every parent-teacher conference because showing up matters to him. They cannot tell you about the man who grew up without a father and quietly decided that his own children would have a different experience. They cannot tell you about the grandfather who stepped into a parenting role when circumstances required it and never asked for recognition. They cannot tell you about the complexity of co-parenting, the communication, the coordination, the sacrifice, the effort required to remain present in a child's life when the relationship between adults no longer exists. They cannot tell you about community fathers, the coach who stays after practice, the mentor who checks in, the uncle who fills a gap, the neighbor who teaches lessons that last a lifetime. These relationships rarely appear in official statistics, but they matter. A father's impact cannot always be measured by where he sleeps. Fatherhood is not simply a residential status, it is a relationship, a responsibility, a commitment, a series of decisions made over time. The narrative that Black fathers are absent has been repeated so often that many people accept it without question. The research tells a more complicated story and a more human one. That story deserves to be told. Before we continue, I want to leave you with a question. How should we measure fatherhood? By where a man lives or by what he does? By a household composition statistic or by the relationship between a father and his child and what changes when we start measuring the right thing? Fatherhood focuses on the relationship between parent and child. The next conversation focuses on the relationships between adults. In our next episode, we look at Black men, marriage, and relationships, marriage rates, long-term partnerships, relationship trends, and the question of what makes a family stable, regardless of what it looks like from the outside. This series is designed to encourage understanding, not agreement. The statistics discussed in this episode and the sources used to obtain them are available below. If this conversation made you think differently about the topic, continue with episode 7 as we explore the next chapter in the story, because understanding begins long before conclusions do.